Okay, so thank you all for joining the webinar today. Inside IronCircle, our AI-powered cybersecurity training experience. I am Desiree Young. I'm the Chief Learning Officer here at IronCircle. And let me first start off by saying thank you for taking the time. And secondly, let me share a little bit about IronCircle. So IronCircle is the leading AI-powered cybersecurity training platform. We partner with universities and colleges to close the skills gap in cyber by providing the workforce with ready and prepared talent. Our immersive AI-powered platform delivers transformative, career-aligned cybersecurity training experience, empowering the next generation of cyber professionals to emerge stronger, more resilient, and ready for the AI age. Together with our trusted partners, such as yourselves, we are forging the future of cybersecurity. This webinar today will showcase the key features, resources, and innovative engagement of our platform as it aligns to the degree courses. I will now pass it over to our Head of Product, Mike Pissarro. He will be presenting the platform. Mike?
Hi, everyone. How are you? Pleasure to see you today virtually. My name is Mike Pissarro. I'm the VP of Product here at IronCircle. A little bit about my background, and then we'll jump into it. So for those of you who haven't met me, as I said, I'm the VP of Product here, but prior to this, I was Director of Training at Dragos, lead technical trainer at Mandiant and FireEye, and before that, lead trainer at Recorded Future and some other places. I worked at an MSSP, amongst others. And then before that, I was in for-profit online higher education, where I worked for laureate international universities doing work in their computer science program, bachelor's, master's, PhD programs for degree granting programs, both here in the US at Walden University and internationally for University of Liverpool. And before that, I had a separate career as a lawyer. So a lot there for you guys to rummage through. But today I am going to be talking to you guys a bit about our IronCircle platform and specifically our offering that we're talking about today, which is our licensing model where you'll be able to use our labs in your ground programs. So first thing maybe to understand is this is a little bit different from our normal offering, right? So our standard offering is, for example, our programs that are certifications, but this is for a different audience, which is the audience of ground programs. So when I mean ground, I'm saying in classroom students. Think like your bachelor's cyber program, right? That's where this would be useful. And what this is basically a package of labs that we are preparing for you guys, and I'll get more into the details of that later, that instructors will be able to sift through and then use in their curriculum when they're delivering their training and their classes in the undergraduate environment. So first, I'm going to take you through a walkthrough of the IronCircle platform, and then we can talk through a couple of the things around how this gets into motion, how students purchase this, and what's included, and all of that kind of stuff. And at the end, we will have some time for Q&A. So please, if you have questions, feel free to enter them in the chat as we go along, and we'll be sure to answer all of the questions that we receive at the end. Okay, so first, I'm going to get started here by sharing my screen. All right, so talking about the IronCircle platform. So first, I want to walk you guys through the login experience since it's so easy, and this is exactly what students will do when they're coming to IronCircle for their labs. So let's say there's a situation in which one of your ground programs is utilizing our labs in their cybersecurity, let's say Cyber 101, just for ease of use, right? And say like, okay, this week I've been assigned labs 2, 3, and 4, right? So how do I do that? The answer is you're going to come to ironcircle.com as a student, right? And I'm looking for, certain labs. I'm going to go ahead and click here on the upper right-hand corner and log in. Since I am an administrator, I'm going to click down here. And then once logged in, students will see an icon that looks like these ones right over here on the right-hand side. These say cyber briefings, but it will say lab package. And when you click on that, students will be able to access 40 labs, our package of 40 different labs that they can utilize. So for example, like I said, if we were looking for 2, 3, and 4, you'd go in there and look for that. That interface is currently being built. That's why I'm not showing you the actual interface, but the content will still be the same to what I'm showing you right now. So I'm going to come into our cybersecurity analyst platform here, and I want to pull up a lab for you guys to take a look. So what students will be able to do, we'll come down here and click on something kind of interesting. Let's do chain rules. Great. So when I click on that, the lab is going to go ahead and spin up. So like I said, students will come in, they'll find the appropriate lab. I was looking for like labs 2, 3, and 4, right? So I might start with number 2. And then when I click that, it'll spin up the lab in real time. As the lab is spinning up, you can see that everything is mapped to the nice NIST framework. We show you a little bit of that right here as you're loading. So all of our content is mapped back to that framework because everything that we do here at IronCircle is job aligned. So all of our content, whether it's the content that's in our programs or whether it's the content that's in our labs or wherever, is all mapped back to the NIST NICE framework. And the reason we do that is for a couple reasons, but the most important for the purposes of this conversation is that it makes it very easy for students to see exactly how the skills they're requiring in this particular lab map to the job role that they're looking for. So for example, you could go to the NIST NICE framework page. If you've not seen it, all you have to do is Google it. Oops. And you'll see in here, we have all kinds of different work role categories, right? And you can come in here and find all of the mapping. Okay, so coming back to our lab has now spun up and loaded. You see we've got a Linux and Windows instance here that we're going to be playing around with. And what we're going to be doing here is it'll tell you over on the left-hand side exactly what to do. So students are guided step by step over here on the left-hand side through these steps. Every time they complete a step in the virtual machine, they'll come down here to the bottom and click the next button on the bottom right-hand side. And then the AI will validate whether or not they did the correct thing per the directions over here on the left-hand side. And if they did, then it'll allow them to go to the next step. If they don't, it will tell them to try again. And they can try again and either just straight try again, suppose they made a typo or something, right? And they want to retry. Or they're able to do things like get hints. So if you come over here on the left-hand side, you can get a hint, right? So for this one, it's very simple, which is click on the next button. So we'll go ahead and see that that's the AI marked that as correctly, right? And then you also have a couple of other options for help. So let's say I'm a student and I come in here and, I'm sitting here, okay, locate the Linux VM IP address and verify connectivity. I'm like, oh man, I don't know what to do. Like maybe I, wasn't paying attention or I just forgot. It's been a week since I've come in here, whatever it may be. You can always come to the top where it says need help with the little robot and you can pull up our AI assistant. So think of this like a teaching assistant, but it is AI. It's our own proprietary AI. A lot of people ask, Mike, is this ChatGPT or Gemini or what is this? It's none of the above. It's a AI that we have generated here for the purposes of cybersecurity education exclusively. So it's a little bit different than some of those other chatbots, but it works in a very similar way. So for example, let's say I wanted to do something like, tell me how to find the IP address of this Linux VM. Okay, so it'll tell me exactly what to do in here, right? Step by step, etc. Now that was pretty easy because I'm just asking it to give me something related to this lab. But if I had a question about something, so for example, let's say I got even more basic and I said something like, I totally forget, like what is an IP address? Right? You can ask it questions like that too. So it's not just questions that are limited to the lab. You can actually ask questions outside the lab and it will also respond to you as well. So you can either get lab assistance or just general cybersecurity assistance. You can even ask it things about how labs tie to other labs or how this information might be useful in the future, which is really helpful for students, especially adults that want to know the reasoning behind why they're learning the things that they're learning. So you have really wide latitude here to do that. You can interact with this in a bunch of ways as well. I typed, but you can also talk. So if you click the little microphone here, you can, it'll convert your voice to text and enter it through there. And then you also have an option to do things like do a screen share. So for example, if I were to click the screen share, I'll click allow. So hopefully you guys heard that talking. I tried to share my audio as well. But the AI is actually talking to me in my ear right now as I'm talking to you guys. And I can ask it questions like I can say, hi, Eve, can you explain to me the next step to take on this lab? So basically what happened is when I was speaking and you heard me say like, Eve, can you help me with this lab? What I heard in my ear was like, yes, Mike, of course. Let's go ahead and get started. First, go to the bottom left-hand side and click on the terminal. So it's very interactive with you. It's not pre-scripted in any way, just like if you were to go to ChatGPT or whatever and try and interact with it to walk you through something. And students will hear this, directly through their monitors or their headphones. So I apologize, the sound didn't share, but it was coming directly through my earbud. So basically what you can do is the AI can guide you through this whole process, and all I have to do is click stop sharing to turn it off. So you can turn it on and off very easily. It's there 24/7, 365. So there's no downtime ever. Somebody asked me once, Mike, will the AI bot be available on Christmas morning? The answer is yes. It will be there on Christmas morning. It'll be there on Easter morning. It'll be there on your birthday. It'll be there 24/7, 365. We think that this is really helpful for adult learners for a number of reasons. So I think most of us know that adult learners tend to learn outside of traditional hours. So for example, a lot of people have a day job that they're doing, they come home, they're cooking dinner for their kids, they put the kids down to bed, right? And it's like, okay, now it's time to get started on my learning, right? And obviously, professors are not always available 24/7, 365. So it's really nice to have this as an option for when students are working outside of traditional hours. Another reason this is really useful is because it can actually do a lot of things in the lab that might require a lot of interaction with your instructor. So let's say hypothetically I had one of those problems in the lab and I was asking Eve what to do. It's instructing me in real time exactly what to do. There's no downtime for me. I don't have to wait, right? I don't have to actually go into maybe my chat feature or send an email to my instructor and wait for my instructor to come online, or even make a call to a learner support services or some other sort of support, right? I'm able to get everything in real time in one place. So this is a really, really great feature of the labs. So when students come into IronCircle labs, know that they're never alone, right? You always have these different features available to help you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go back to my program and leave this lab. Another thing that students have the opportunity to use is our Cyberpedia. So up at the top here, they have access to our Cyberpedia, which is a sort of, think of it as like a Wikipedia kind of combined with like little tests. So what you can do in here is you can come in and of course, there's all sorts of information on various parts of cybersecurity. And you can click any of these, for example, networking, and learn more about anything at any given time. You can come in and it'll load for you and show things in interactive learning objects that will explain things to you. So this is very, very helpful if you prefer, let's say you're a learner that doesn't prefer to interact with AI, right? You have this option to come here and do that. And then like I mentioned a moment ago, you can also take little quizzes in here, right? So you can come in and say something like, oh, introduction to cyber, right? And I can test my knowledge. Very useful. Okay, now I want to go through the way that this buying process would actually work for a prospective student. So let's say you say, all right, Mike, this sounds really interesting. I'm on board. Sounds cool. I would like to use this in my ground program. How would my students actually purchase this? Like, how would this actually work? So we are available through two different places right now. We're available through the AWS store and through the Barnes & Noble bookstore. So most of you, I think, will probably go through your bookstores. And we chose Barnes & Noble as our first place because it's the largest bookstore across the country. So basically, we could reach the most people with one swath. But people have asked questions about if we're planning to go to other places. And yes, that is on the roadmap. So if you are a university that does not utilize Barnes & Noble or does not utilize AWS, we'd love to know what you are utilizing so that we can talk about getting that in that store as well. So what would happen is basically what you would do is you would come into the bookstore like this, and usually you're going to need a class code. So I'm sure you guys are familiar with this. When you have a class like, say, Cyber 101, what you'll do is you'll come in here, you'll select your university. In this case, I selected Michigan. You select your campus. I selected Ann Arbor. And then you'll come in and you'll enter your course code. And then, of course, it'll pull up all of the required materials for that course, which could be the textbook, our IronCircle labs, other guides or books or whatever other things are included. And students would purchase it just like they purchase any other item from the bookstore. I think the best analogy is probably something like computer-assisted drafting, right? CAD. So if you've ever done computer-assisted drafting, you know it's very software heavy, and a lot of times you have to buy that software at your university bookstore. Exactly the same process here, right? So students just come in and purchase it. Once it's purchased, a trigger is sent to IronCircle, and we send the username and password to the student. So it's very easy for them to use. Then they're able to just log in, as I just showed you, at ironcircle.com, and they can get started immediately. There's no spin up time or waiting periods or anything like that. We tried really hard to eliminate all of that in our processes. So the idea is like professors could even assign pre-work if they wanted, right? They could say, hey, before you come to class 1, complete IronCircle labs 1 and 2, right? And students would be able to do that. So there's no requirement for them to actually speak to anyone first. Everything is ready to roll right out of the box. Okay. I'll come back here to our platform and come back. One other thing I do want to show you really quickly is students are granted a profile, and it does do things like track your progress. You have an option for phone support here if you'd like to do that. And we also send out notifications to students via this little bell right here. So for example, if there's a notification about like a new feature or a new lab that's been uploaded to a package or something like that, students will receive a notification there as well. So there's ways for us to communicate directly through students within the platform. So it's not necessary to always have to do things in the classroom either. Okay, so that basically talks about the labs and how this is purchased. Next question people typically ask is, how much is this, Mike? So the answer is it's $249 a semester. So tried to keep that price down as low as possible. Obviously, you can see it utilizes a lot of resources, so it is a little bit more on the expensive side, but we tried to keep things affordable for students as much as we could. And again, that would just be purchased directly through the Barnes & Noble bookstore. Okay, so I think that covers most of the things around the labs and the bookstore. Desiree, do we have any questions in the chat that I can go ahead and answer?
Yes, there is one that came in privately here. They would like to know, in terms of the resources that you see here, is it hints? Are there where's they can go in and click and identify options that they can find solutions when they are stuck, that the assistant can assist?
Sure, so let's come in here and I'll show you really quickly. Let's just click something like systems and I'll just find a lab for you real quick. Maybe just do Windows System Admin, right? Keep it simple here. This is from one of our more basic labs, so it'll be a little bit easier to show that. The answer is yes. The hint engine is very robust. It's not just like a, how would I put it? It's not just like a spit out. It actually shows you different steps. So as you click along, it will give you different hints, right? And usually it will tell you exactly what it is that you need to do. So let's go ahead and I'll show you that in just one moment here. I will say behind the scenes, for those of you that are definitely in the technology space, you understand how difficult this actually is. We're spinning up entire lab products here. We're spinning up a entire instance, right? Not just the virtual machines, but networking, tools, systems. We use mostly open source tools in our platform today. But we do have plans to utilize some third-party tools in the future. So, for example, in our cyber threat intelligence course, I used to work at Recorded Future. I think they have great threat intelligence. I would love to see Recorded Future threat intelligence in the future. And so, one of my priorities for roadmap for the future is to get those types of paid tools into our environment. But that said, you do also have the option to utilize tools that you guys have. So if you guys have licenses for, like, let's say Recorded Future or CrowdStrike or Splunk or whatever it may be, you can utilize those in the lab. So we can do that. But by default, we typically use only open source tools. Okay, so to answer your question, Desiree, about the hints, right? Obviously over here on the left-hand side, I can get hints, and I'll do a couple of steps here so that we can get a more legitimate hint. Okay, so I want to open the task manager. Right? And I'll click next. Good job. navigate to processes. So I'm going to click more detail. Here's my processes. And if I get stuck, I can come over here, Desiree, and it will tell me here. So you can see this is a pretty good hint, right? So you can see it says, think of the task manager as your system's control center. You need to access this, etc. And then it gives you the hint down here. The process you're looking for is responsible for displaying your desktop. You can rate the hint down here. You can also refresh it to get a different one, and you can click reveal solution if you get stuck. So for example, I could say, show me the solution, come down, it'll say, aha, within here, click on processes. And then once you get in here, look for Windows Explorer listed in the name column, right? So then I could come down here and say, okay, let's try and find that. But I think you guys get the point, right? Which is that it gives you a hint over here on the left-hand side and kind of directs you to that. But you do get those dynamic hints there for you to be able to complete the labs. Are there any other questions, Desiree?
Yes, there's one asking, as professors, will they be able to see the lab before they assign it for their courses?
Yes. So if you get in contact with Pat or Austin, who are on the call, they can get you guys I guess let's call it a sample license. So your professors can come and log in, take a look at the different labs that are in the package. Pat and Austin can also show you a list of the labs. So if you're just curious, if you're like, Mike, I don't have time to go in here and do all this stuff, Pat and Austin can give you the actual list of the 40 labs. And one thing I would say is we worked really hard to curate the labs. We spent a lot of time thinking about which ones would be the most useful in this package. We looked at a lot of different syllabi from different institutions, both in degree granting and non-degree granting programs to come up with that. For example, one of the areas I didn't think would be necessary was more coding, like Python related stuff. But when I went and looked at a lot of the syllabi of universities, that was in a lot of the syllabi. So we made a decision to add those labs to the package, right? We also do update the package from time to time. We'll never shrink it, I don't believe, but we could expand upon it. So the 40 may turn into 50 or 60, depending upon how things go over time. We might also swap some in and out, of course, not without notice to you guys, since you'd be basing your curriculum on it, right? We may update them, which is another thing that's kind of interesting. We do make updates to the labs that wouldn't substantially change any of the outcomes or the framework or anything like that. But what it would do is maybe if we find bugs in the lab or users are struggling at a certain point, we'll make those updates. So think of our platform more as like a software as a service platform and less as a traditional LMS, right? So for example, when I was working at Laureate and we would design a course, it had a 5-year shelf life, right? So it was expected to basically sit there in frozen form for 5 years as students went through it. And then after the end of 5 years, we would update it. IronCircle is not like that. We are updating every single day, every single week, right? We're constantly iterating updates, just like you would with a software as a service platform like Recorded Future, right? The changes just come as you use the system. Obviously, we do things like issue release notes and communicate from the partnership team if there's going to be any substantial changes. But just know that we thought really hard about the labs to include here. And that we really tried to make the experience as easy and seamless as possible while keeping students up to date in a field that is rapidly evolving, especially with the advent of AI.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike. There is one more where
Okay,
asking, can partners purchase license in bulk and deploy them as needed to students?
that's a good question. So the answer to that is maybe, and I know that's a very lawyer answer of me, but the answer is maybe. The reason we say that is we spent a lot of time thinking about what model we wanted to use to get these to students. And we really just wanted to make it as accessible to the maximum number of ground programs as possible, which is why we chose the Barnes and Noble store. However, if you have a situation where you want to buy a large number, like let's say 50 licenses, and then dole them out to people, you can call Pat and Austin, and they can work with you through that process. And we can talk about how that would get done. I could definitely see some circumstances in which that would be easier. So just give them a call, and they can help you work something out to that end.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, thank you, Mike, for the demonstration and showcasing the AI-powered platform. I would now like to turn it over to Austin and Pat that they can introduce themselves.
Hey, thanks everybody for attending. I'm Patrick Enoch, Director of Strategic Partnerships. So hopefully the demonstration was of interest to you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to follow up. My email is below.
Hi there, Austin Dolan, counterpart to Patrick. Thank you for your time this afternoon or evening. If you have any questions, please let us know. We'll also follow up with a recording of this webinar to all the attendees, regardless. Thank you for your time.
So thank you again so much for all those who attended and taking the time to hear what we have to say about our platform. IronCircle is very proud of this AI-powered platform because we know that it really transformed what it means to provide course curriculum and content delivered in such an interactive way that enables the learner to engage in hands-on experiential learning, competency-based learning, that really readily prepares them for the job. So we focus a lot on your course objectives and outcome. So thank you again so much. And this recording will be shared with all those who attended. And you have Pat and Austin information should you have any follow-up questions or require additional information. So thank you so much.